Hello, everyone. If I asked you to name the most famous perfume in the world, what would you say? Most of you would probably say Chanel No. 5. And if I asked you to imagine a classic, elegant woman, what would she be wearing? Maybe a black dress, pearls, and a tweed suit. Today we are talking about the woman who created all of this, Gabrielle Coco Chanel. She was not just a fashion designer. She was a revolutionary. Before her, women were trapped in tight corsets. They couldn't breathe. They couldn't move freely. Chanel set them free. She cut their hair short, she put them in comfortable pants, and she told them, "Luxury must be comfortable, otherwise it is not luxury." But do you know the dark and lonely story behind her glamour? Do you know that she grew up in a cold orphanage? Do you know that the love of her life died in a tragic car accident? And do you know that she made her greatest comeback at the age of 71 when everyone told her she was finished? We are going to walk through the streets of Paris and explore the incredible life of Coco Chanel. It is a story about style, survival, and the courage to be different. Are you ready to meet the Queen of Fashion? The story begins in 1883 in a poorhouse in France. Gabrielle Chanel was born into poverty. Her parents were not married. They struggled to survive. When Gabrielle was only 12 years old, her mother passed away from bronchitis. Her father, a street vendor, did not want to take care of 5 children, so he did something terrible. He took his sons to a farm to work as laborers, and he took Gabrielle and her sisters to an orphanage in a convent called Aubazine. He promised he would come back for them, but he never did. Gabrielle never saw her father again. This betrayal shaped her entire life. She decided that she would never depend on anyone again. She would be strong. She would be independent. But the orphanage was not all bad. It was actually the place where her style was born. The nuns wore black and white habits. The architecture of the convent was simple, clean, and geometric. Years later, these elements became the signature of Chanel. The black and white colors, the clean lines, the logo. Even in the darkest place, she found beauty. At the age of 18, Gabrielle left the orphanage. She moved to a town called Moulins. By day, she worked as a seamstress, sewing clothes. But by night, she had a different dream. She wanted to be a star. She sang in a cabaret bar frequented by cavalry officers. She only knew 2 songs. One of them was called, "Who Has Seen Coco in the Trocadero?" Because she sang this song so often, the soldiers started calling her Coco. She wasn't a great singer. Her voice was thin, but she had a magnetic personality. The men loved her. It was there that she met a rich man named Etienne Balsan. He was a wealthy heir who loved horses. He invited Coco to live in his castle. Suddenly, the poor orphan girl was living in luxury, but she wasn't happy. She was just a guest, or perhaps a toy for a rich man. She spent her days reading cheap novels and sleeping. She realized that this idle life was not for her. She wanted to do something. Then she met the love of her life. His name was Arthur Capel, but everyone called him Boy. Boy Capel was different. He was handsome, English, and wealthy. But more importantly, he believed in Coco. He saw her talent. One day, Coco told him she wanted to make hats. At that time, women wore huge, heavy hats covered in feathers and fruit. They were ridiculous. Coco made simple straw hats. They were chic and elegant. Boy Capel said, "I will help you." He lent her the money to open a hat shop in Paris in 1910. This was the beginning of the legend. Her hats were a sensation. Famous actresses started wearing them. But Coco wanted more. She wanted to change the way women dressed. In 1913, She opened a boutique in the seaside town of Deauville. One cold day, she took an old jersey sweater, which was actually men's underwear fabric, and made a simple dress for herself. Women asked her, "Where did you get that?" She said, "I made it." Suddenly, everyone wanted one. Coco realized something important. Women were tired of corsets. They wanted to move. They wanted to play sports. They wanted to breathe. She bought cheap jersey fabric, which was usually used for men's underwear, and created a new line of casual, comfortable clothes. It was a revolution. She made poverty look like luxury. By the 1920s, Chanel was the queen of Paris. But she needed one more thing to complete her empire: a perfume. In 1921, she met a perfumer named Ernest Beau. She told him, "I want a perfume that smells like a woman, not like a flower." Back then, women smelled like roses or lilacs. It was very boring. Ernest Beau presented her with several samples, numbered 1 to 5 and 20 to 24. Coco sniffed them all. Then she stopped at sample number 5. It was complex. It had jasmine, rose, sandalwood, and a secret ingredient called aldehydes, which made the scent sparkle like champagne. She said, "I present my dress collection on the 5th of May, the 5th month of the year. So let's leave the number 5 it has, and this number will bring it luck." And thus, Chanel number 5 was born. It is still the best-selling perfume in the world today. But just as she reached the top of the world, tragedy struck. In December 1919, her lover, Boy Capel, died in a car accident. Coco was devastated. She lost the only man she ever truly loved. She told a friend, "Either I die as well or I finish what we started together." She chose to work. She painted her bedroom black, and she poured her grief into her designs. Some people say that the famous little black dress, which she introduced in 1926, was her way of making the whole world mourn for her lost love. Before Chanel, black was only for funerals and servants. After Chanel, black became the color of elegance. Vogue magazine called her Black Dress the Ford, meaning it was simple, popular, and accessible to everyone, just like the Model T car. Then came World War II. This is the controversial part of her life. When the Nazis occupied Paris, Chanel closed her shops. She lived in the Ritz Hotel, which was the headquarters for the German military. She had a relationship with a German officer. Because of this, after the war ended, she was arrested and questioned. She was eventually released, but she had to leave France. She went into exile in Switzerland for nearly 10 years. While she was away, a new designer named Christian Dior appeared. He introduced the new look. It had tight waists and big, heavy skirts. Chanel was furious. She said, "Dior doesn't dress women, he upholsters them." She hated that men were putting women back into corsets. So, in 1954, at the age of 71, she decided to return. Everyone said she was too old. The press laughed at her. Her first collection was a disaster. The French newspapers wrote, "A melancholy retrospective." They thought she was finished. But Chanel didn't care. She knew what women wanted. She introduced the tweed suit. It was boxy, comfortable, and elegant. She introduced the 2.55 bag. It was the first luxury bag with a shoulder strap, so women could have their hands free. She introduced the two-tone shoe, beige and black, to make the foot look smaller and the leg look longer. The American women loved it. They bought everything. Soon, the French critics had to admit they were wrong. Coco Chanel was back on top. She worked until the very end. She hated Sundays because the shop was closed and she had no one to work with. She never married. She had no children. She was the most famous woman in the world, but she was often lonely. On a Sunday in January 1971, she lay down on her bed at the Ritz Hotel. She said to her maid, "You see, this is how you die." And she passed away at the age of 87. Gabrielle Coco Chanel left us more than just clothes. She gave women freedom. She taught us that you don't need to be born rich to be elegant. She taught us that simplicity is the keynote of all true elegance. And she proved that a determined woman can build an empire with nothing but a needle and a thread. Today, when you put on a comfortable pair of pants or wear a simple black dress, remember the orphan girl who changed the world. Remember Coco. Thank you for listening to this stylish journey. Create your own style and live your own life. See you in the next episode.